I've gotten into the habit of like showing off various dashboards of ours in Salesforce to marketers. So it's the first time this is all kind of combined into one kind of show and tell, I guess, of some of the things that we do and how we do it. Might be an alternate universe for some of you, right? I know that I'm lucky in some of the systems we have in place. Looking at the previous presentation, I don't mean to say I was horrified, but there was definitely some things that I felt very grateful about in terms of the access to the systems and processes. And when I think about reporting, that comes at the very end of a lot of other things, right? There's a lot of processes around even lead management or getting to pick what kind of CRM you're using or the interactions with your sales team that have a huge influence over what you're actually able to accomplish. But as a marketer, I think a lot of what I care about or what I'm thinking about is I want to know what's possible out there. That's what I do. I call other marketers. I go, show me what you do because I want to understand what's possible in this regard. I have a call on Friday with someone from LinkedIn. I'm like, show me what's possible in campaign planning and management. That's what I'm curious about. So I want to show you guys what's possible, I think, around demand gen and reporting and some of the systems we have in place around that. As Justin said, I run demand gen and Influitive. I love startups, and that's all I've done. I don't think I'll ever be at not a startup, although Influitive's gotten to like 145-ish employees now, so every day feels bigger and bigger, and I know less faces, and that's a little bit scary, but so far I'm still surviving. And I'm definitely a reformed B2C marketer. So this, my world in B2C in the past around e-commerce, you would start every month and you would have no revenue. You got to build it up from zero and sell a bunch of, in our case, it was custom suits. So now that I've fallen in love with the predictability of SaaS and all that kind of stuff, it'd be very hard to walk away from it. So I love what we can do with B2B marketing. So very quickly, I mean, a lot of you probably know about the Influitive story. This is kind of where we've grown in the last 20 months that I've been here. Clearly rapid growth. Our revenues increased about 7 times. As a marketer who's trying to feed a very hungry sales team, our sales organization has grown to more than 30 people. When I joined, we had 2 quota-carrying reps, 3 SDRs, and that was it. And now they seem to multiply in batches. We have the cohort of October 2015 SDRs, and there's 6 more of them or 7 more of them that are all hungry for the same types of leads. And the thing on the right I'm most proud of, definitely the amount of pipeline we've created. And marketing has a big role to play in how we drive revenue. And it's also a big role to play in other facets of marketing too. We are trying to create a category here. So we're not selling a widget or commodity that's known to that consumer. We actually have to educate them first around what it is that we do and then sell to them, which is a bigger process. So what does funnel management look like at Influitive? I was trying to think about what our processes were, and you're going to say, Alex, this is so stereotypical. Everyone always says people, process, technology. That's kind of the roadmap to it. But that really is the way we've built our demand gen functionality and the funnel around it. There's really specific areas around each of those that have enabled us to kind of build the systems we have in place, and I'll tell you about some of them. Hopefully they're similar to what you have in place, or maybe you can say, hey, this might be the reason why our system isn't working the way it should be. Maybe you're missing a critical piece around the culture, people, process, or technology. And I think the order of those is accurate. You start at the top left and move to the bottom right. I'll talk a lot about our technology and what we've put in place. We have a pretty unique solution that not a lot of companies have seen, or that I've seen shared very widely. But I think technology is kind of the last piece in our system. So culture. We have a CEO who's obsessed with growth. That's why he's out there raising a lot of money, but have to grow every single month. And that puts a certain pressure on the team to invest and to kind of grow heavily around that. Designing our business for scale is one of our core values, which is really important. So we're doing things very early on that we think can scale to a much bigger level. We're not trying to kind of hack things together too much. There's a lot of scale built into those processes. The third thing is probably something that a lot of marketers struggle with. The more and more people that I talk to, the reality is marketing does not have a seat at the table in the vast majority of organizations, right? Depending on who the CEO is or the leadership team, you know right away which direction the company is headed, right? If you worked for a place like Apple or Square, you would know that product is king and everything else supports that, right? Some organizations are very sales-driven. So Influitive is lucky. We sell to marketers. We have a marketing-driven CEO. We have a rich history in marketing. And marketing has the biggest budget in the company. So we're driving a lot of our success through marketing. But there's also accountability behind that. So we own a big number. We're accountable to achieving it. And there is the pressure to deliver on that number the same way there's pressure on the sales team, customer success team, the product team, et cetera. The people part is extremely important. So first of all, we have an executive team that absolutely gets it in every single way. The vast majority of our exec team came from Eloqua. They're critical in the foundations of building it. Our CEO and founder was the founder of Eloqua. He started it, I guess, almost 15 years ago now. And from that kind of mindset, if we talk about the challenges that Marketo and Eloqua are trying to solve in terms of revenue and attribution and proving the way for data-driven marketers, those were the products that our team built and was responsible for. So this executive layer that came from a rich history in marketing automation and data-driven marketing, they understand this stuff inside and out. And they're kind of building the solutions that they wish they had when they were building Eloqua maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We have a very kind of analytical, right-brain demand gen team. Chantal and Vivek are two of my colleagues that are here with us today, and I think they would definitely agree with that type of mindset. But I think the more important thing is anyone can learn the system. So I had no exposure to any kind of level of intense marketing automation before I joined Influitive. Definitely no exposure to Salesforce in the way that I do now. I thought I was a Salesforce admin before. Turns out that there's a lot more to it than just making up random fields as you go. And people in our marketing team that have never had experience in any kind of data-driven marketing role or even marketing in general. They've come from various backgrounds, journalism, for example, and have found a way to fully buy into the system. So if you have a culture that supports that and it's easy enough and you hire people around that part's very possible. Okay, the fun part, the process. So this is actually our funnel. It is more simple than I think the vast majority of companies that exist today, right? So an inquiry is a hand raise. Someone raises their hand when they interact with us in some way. They fill out a form. They've downloaded some content, spoken to us at a trade show or webinar, one of these things. We turn inquiries into MQLs. That's our definition of a fit and interest. In our case, our business is not very mature, so we pass a lot of MQLs over. Some people might pass over very few leads if you have a very strictly defined kind of criteria of what you're doing. For us, we're passing over about 65% of all hand raises to our SDR team. There's a lot of volume. Because there isn't quite an understanding of the exact industry or the exact job title that might be a good fit or a warrant for an opportunity or a discussion, we pass over a lot of stuff. Our SDR team, their only job is to qualify and book a demo with someone. So as long as they have a pulse, they're a marketer, they have some interest or some need around our product, their job is to book that SAL, which is a meeting. It gets passed over to a more senior sales executive who immediately, hopefully, qualifies that opportunity, determines if there's an opportunity to sell here, if it's a real fit, and we lead to kind of it being close one. There's multiple stages between SQ and close one that the sales team cares about. Obviously, they can't just predict their pipeline by just having 2 stages. Either it's a pipeline or it's closed. We won. Yay, terrific. This is great. But they, from a marketing standpoint and from the way we think about it, we're very aligned. We only have 5 metrics that we think about, 5 stages of our funnel. So that alignment is probably the most critical part that makes us successful. So our marketing team, primarily what we care about is sales qualified opportunities. The SDR team, how are they comped? Sales qualified opportunities. What do all the reps measure in terms of how much the pipeline they're creating? Sales qualified opportunities. So there's really strong alignment between the marketing and sales team in terms of measuring the exact same thing. And I love inquiries, and I may have been guilty of posting vanity metrics on LinkedIn about how many inquiries were generated in a given month, like I did last month. But the reality is, pipeline and qualified opportunities is what we really care about and how we actually measure it. And the marketing and sales team are all aligned. So once we've got that in place, it's really about the mechanics. So we look at some very kind of set out fields. We have a lead or contact status details field. That is the golden field that determines if someone is in our funnel or out of our funnel. Our motto to our SDRs is sex or die. Either sex, turn it into opportunity, qualify it, or kill it. Throw it out of our pipeline, disposition it, disqualify it, and let it be there in that disqualified state so that the next marketing campaign can open it back up again and bring it back into our funnel or pipeline. And I think the other thing about our process is we've actually focused very much on keeping it simple. So when we launched the V1 of this, there was no lead scoring in place. There was no prioritization, right? We had a different MQL criteria. Our first MQL criteria was referrals and contact us forms. That was an MQL, and we passed over non-MQLs as well. At some point, we got a lot of volume of inquiries, and we said, okay, now we're going to have lead scoring put in, and we're going to change this, right? So the very basic iteration of this lead management process was very much in line between the marketing and sales team. It was simple, and it wasn't trying to do too much. And we're still using much of that mechanics today. So the good part, technology. If you don't know this already, we have a secret weapon, and that's called Full Circle Insights, formerly known as Full Circle CRM. So that's a huge part of how we do things. So to give you an idea of the interaction between Marketo, Salesforce, and Full Circle Insights, the best way to explain Full Circle Insights is it's a piece of software, and it lives directly inside of Salesforce. And imagine if you took the best engineers, the best Salesforce developers, and you said, okay, your goal is to take the campaign object, the campaign members option, and make it as good as possible. What would you do with it? That is what Full Circle does for us. So think of taking campaign members and really putting it on steroids in every single way, shape, or form. So at the end of the day, almost everything that we do inside of Salesforce, inside of Marketo, relates back to campaign members inside of Salesforce. So the relationship between Marketo, Salesforce, and Full Circle Insights, Full Circle is directly inside of Salesforce. Everything that we see, view, report, show, lives and breathes inside of Salesforce. And anytime any kind of marketing action happens, primarily through Marketo, so a form fill, a webinar attendee, an email sent out, the result of that is someone being added to a Salesforce campaign. And that's when Full Circle kicks in. So as soon as someone gets added to a Salesforce campaign, Full Circle is the mechanism that decides, okay, a hand raise has happened. It's an inquiry. Should they be opened up or not? What was the previous state of it? Is it a net new name? Is the score high enough to reach the MQL threshold? If so, let's move it to open not contacted, and an SDR can follow through it. And from that point onwards, Full Circle is kind of in the background measuring every single step along the process, seeing, did that inquiry result in opportunity? If so, what happened in the opportunity? What stage did it reach? How far did it go? All that type of stuff. The beauty of campaign members, for those who are familiar with Salesforce, is Salesforce had a critical design flaw, bug, feature, whatever you want to call it, during its creation. And that is the fact that leads and contacts are separate objects that are really hard to report on together. There's been lots of software that have helped kind of merge that gap. The beauty about campaign members is you can pass over all the key information from both leads and contacts together on one single report, one single view. And basically, you're not worried if the person that responded to that campaign is a lead or a contact. You'll report in the same way as a campaign member inside of that campaign, and it just works. So that's it in a nutshell. I can talk a lot more in detail about what Full Circle actually does. I don't think that's the most exciting part. It is just a piece of technology, but what I do want to get to is kind of geeking out over some of the reports that we have. So these are all the reports that I've taken from our current instance of Salesforce. I don't think I've had to blur anything out today, so you have the real data about how Influitive's doing and some of the results that we've had. So the biggest result by far, and I definitely empathize with this when you're talking about, can you export reports? Can you send things out to the team? Can you share this information? All the data lives inside of Salesforce and is accessible for everyone in our organization. So the most important value of data and reporting, it's not for the sake of that data and reporting. No one does it because they love great reports. The goal of great reports is to do better marketing so that you can have the reports to back it up and show how you're doing it, right? And we've been able to build a ton of transparency and trust with our sales organization. Our executive team, our VP of Finance loves all these reports. These are actually the names of reports that he or she can see inside of Salesforce that tell us the whole story about all of our marketing at any given time. So this idea of, if the data is not in Salesforce, it's not true or it's not accurate, I think that really applies to a lot of technologies. And the biggest thing that's going for us is all the data is in one place. And I think subconsciously you just trust it a little bit more because of that. So our program has helped us scale massively for growth. The left column is how many raw inquiries we're driving month over month. The right one is sales qualified opportunities to direct pipeline to our sales team. So the systems we put in place, we had 500 inquiries. They still work when we have 5,000. And that simpleness of the flow, the simpleness of how many steps we have, the things that we're tracking, only being focused on one field as a primary kind of indicator of disposition of a lead or contact. All those things mean we've been able to scale that quite aggressively and do a good job of it. The bars here on the right are pretty cool as well because green shows how much marketing is the main lead source category for each of those opportunities. So consistently we're driving anywhere from 65 to 70% of our direct pipeline from marketing sourced campaigns. And that's even though as we've really ramped up our outbound sales team and outbound SDR efforts, marketing still plays a huge role as part of that. This is my job, or our demand gen team's job in one dashboard. This is literally kind of the heads-up display. If you played a video game before and you're looking at seeing what your goals are and metrics, this is it for our team. So we have one main dashboard. This is about 1 out of the 7 components that are part of it. But this shows in real time, how am I doing this month? Am I going to hit my targets? The targets get bigger and bigger every month, it seems, in Influitive. But the good news is we know exactly how we're on pace to achieve this. And this number is emailed to our investors every single week. So they're really kept close tabs about our results and how we're driving towards that pipeline goal. This is some of the cool stuff that I've ever seen done around cohorts. So I come from B2C world where cohort analysis is like the de facto standard. So if you're in a B2C world, whether it's small dollar value SaaS or e-commerce, every transaction is very small. So the only way you make sense of your transactions is you group them together and then you measure them as a cohort. That's where cohort analysis comes from. So in the B2C world, I used to sell men's custom suits online. We would group together all of January's orders of new customer suits and then see how that cohort progressed over time. Did they buy 1.1 suits in the first 2 months or 1.3? Did their average order value go up or down over that time frame? So Full Circle has enabled us to have a very unique perspective on cohort analysis. Instead of grouping together purchases, which take a long time, there's a long deal time and a long cycle to actually get to deals, what we group together is responses to campaigns. So Full Circle says, can I group together all of my campaign responses from January and then see how many of them converted to the next stage of my cycle? From inquiries to SALs, from SALs to SQOs, from SQOs to close one. And then compare that to all the responses from December and November. And each of them have their own cohorts and their own progression through those statuses. So what you can see here is this is my MQL, SAL to SQO. So out of all the SALs I generated in a given month, how many of them converted to the next stage? The farther right you get on that chart, the less time they've had to convert naturally. But it also shows a trend in terms of what's actually happening in our funnel. This data is really important for us because if we look at the pure number, the raw number of opportunities or pipeline we're generating every month, the number might seem like it's going up. Great, everything is going up. But what it's not showing you is maybe there's parts of that funnel that are actually suffering. Maybe there's been a big change in terms of your conversion rate from inquiries to opportunities. That's indicative of not enough SDRs to handle the load, or the quality of campaigns have gone down, or I'm passing over too many leads, or something else that's happened that's quite important. So right away, I can dig into various parts of my funnel and see what's changing. As you can see here, this is our inquiry to sell, so very top of the funnel conversion rates. We've had massive changes here. You can ignore the part from December and January because we changed our rules in February around MQLs. But as you can see, we have some months that have as high as 7.33% conversion rate. So now what I'm doing today is like struggling figuring out what happened there. What are the reasons why that conversion rate was so high? Was it because we had low volume? Was our SDRs on fire in August and they were just so excited about converting everything? But understanding all these steps really helps us explain what's happening beyond the funnel, not just within the pure results of it. So campaign influence, I know you guys wonder about this stuff a lot. We are starting to make a little bit of headway into this, but we're able to measure directly, again, with Full Circle kind of out of the box, how each of these tactics, what these campaigns, how they actually lead to op creation, won influence, open influence, lost influence, how many opportunities it's affected. Giving away all my secrets, these are our most popular campaigns of all time. This playbook has influenced like almost more than $2.5 million of pipeline. So this is our oldest ebook asset. We're doubling down on content marketing. So I firmly believe there's a lot more assets here that will provide a lot of value for us. In our business, referrals is really key. That's number 2. We're in the business of delivering software that helps you get more referrals. So I'm happy and proud that we're good at that. But it's a combination of primarily content assets that drive the most results. And that makes sense because of how we've delivered it. Also interesting to note is we do have a methodology around how we look at sources of content versus the distribution of it. So if you look at the bottom one on the list here, it says the name of an ebook by Forrester, and then it says LinkedIn. So Vivek manages our paid advertising programs, and we actually attribute the value of that not to the content asset, but to the channel that we spent money on to distribute that content asset. So for almost every one of these ebooks, we'll have a separate campaign called name of ebook, dash LinkedIn, dash AdRoll, dash Twitter. And it's our way of kind of organizing all this information so that we can separately report on paid as a channel versus content versus referrals versus webinars versus whatever else. So UTM parameters is one of the things we've done that's kind of a little bit more innovative. So everyone knows UTM parameters. We've all grown up in the age of Google Analytics and all that kind of stuff. So what we thought would be really cool was trying to take the data from a UTM parameter and actually apply it further down the pipeline. The way our system currently works is the vast majority of our forms are Marketo forms. That makes sense. And Marketo forms can read through parameters that are on the URL. So the one thing that we've added is when someone fills out a form, those parameters are saved, and they get copied over to the campaign member. And then they get deleted off the main leader contact. They get wiped. So that the next time that someone downloads a new form and they have different UTM parameters or different kind of parameters above them there, the new ones can be put into that campaign member. So the beauty of that is because all the reporting on pipeline, revenue, influence is based off of campaign members, we now have a new field that we can look at to show value across the organization. So there's different ways we've done that. One is around Vivek has gone really hard into paid advertising, and we can really see down to the type of ad, the kind of channel, and imagine being able to report on the type of LinkedIn targeting that you were doing for that ad, all the way down to the actual pipeline creation, all the way down to the deal being closed. Even our content team, so they use these terms for blog posts. So they have CTAs on their blog posts that lead to gated content assets. Same thing, that gated content asset has a UTM parameter attached to it. That UTM parameter gets saved in the campaign member. And I can tell you that the blog post called The Only Customer Marketer Job Description You'll Ever Need has actually created this many inquiries, this much pipeline, and maybe some deals around that. So this idea of bringing in any kind of variables around it, we've actually done an interesting job in our UTMs in that we're not using the standard way that Google has suggested that we use it. It's mostly just our own kind of home-baked system. Like we have a certain rule for this is what a term is, this is what a source is, this is what a keyword is, and we kind of look at it as our own little hidden fields that we can use for any kind of our marketing. Here's some of the things that we're able to do with it. So like lead scoring, does it actually work? How can you report on it? So we can associate any kinds of fields with a campaign member. One of the fields we've associated is what is the lead score at time of opportunity creation. Okay? So all of a sudden, we have 4 main buckets of lead score, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1's the best, 4 is the worst. We passed 1, 2, 3, we hold 4 for now. So right away, by slicing and dicing it on the lead score fields, I can actually see if my lead score is working. And this is interesting data for us because, for example, it's showing that our funnel score 3 has almost nothing that's inside of it. We probably need to change the rules a little bit so that it's more balanced and distribution around it. Or we've had some months when funnel score 1 and funnel score 2 have almost the exact same types of results, and we're like, okay, crap, we got to change the way we route or prioritize these leads because clearly we're not doing a good job of telling the SDRs what to prioritize or what to kind of focus on primarily. Someone asked about velocity and how we're doing it. So Full Circle tracks all the velocity of every single step in our funnel and around those campaign members. So this is a lot of information, but we actually look at the date range of conversions. So I know that 63% of my inquiries will convert to opportunities within 15 days. And I've kind of used the half-month mark as a more practical way of showing what will happen. But this has helped us go from a model where we say, there's a 2-month pipeline to close 1. Okay, let's assume that that's the case, to actually breaking it down on an individual basis. So I know that if I need to generate 80 SQOs in July of 2015, the reality is there's a lot more that I need to generate because I'm not just generating SQOs to help July's pipeline, but I'm also generating SQOs to help August and September's and October's and November's. And our financial forecasting has a really big November, so I got to generate pipeline today that's like 4 or 5 months in advance, right? So what it's doing is we're taking these numbers to determine, okay, if this is my end goal, this is how much pipeline I actually need to create today to support future efforts. This is one of the very few times that I use Excel or actually spreadsheets. Primarily, everything is done inside of Salesforce and reporting. But I can actually backtrack and show exactly how many opportunities, inquiries I need in a given month to support 9 months of revenue ahead of us. And we can also take the same data and use a backwards version of this calculator to see, are we actually on pace of hitting our targets? So again, the data around how long things take to close, that comes from Salesforce. And I can build kind of my own version of a SQO calculator to generate and determine what I need to do in terms of future production and kind of backfilling everything from opportunities to pipeline to inquiries all the way down to the bottom of my funnel. And I think the biggest benefit of this is just whatever you need it, you can slice and dice it. So every field is in Salesforce. If I want to just show me just one rep and how they're doing, show me just these group of SDRs, show me deal sizes that are bigger than this, show me just Europe or another territory. We had a question last week about show me by campaign type what the conversion rate is based on volume per month. And I was like, that was easy, right? Like Salesforce reports enable you to do that in a very quick and simple way. I've gotten a lot better at summary tables inside of Salesforce, but I can really easily show this data. I can share it. I can add parameters to it. I can say take out contact us, because that doesn't count. I can say look at just these types of campaigns. And again, the benefit is the transparency. I can share this with anyone on my team. My VP of Finance loves this. And there's a lot of people in the company, the sales organization, that trust marketing's data and where we're coming from because it is so visible and it's transparent and it's all in one place. The takeaway is we're just getting started. We've grown our team aggressively. We've hired a lot of great people to help us kind of get to the next stage, but these are some of the things that we're thinking about right now. So our current model is built primarily around inbound SDRs, where they're only picking up the phone and calling leads that have come in from marketing responses. Today, we actually have as many outbound SDRs as inbound guys. So we need to build the same kind of process around that. We need to have sales campaigns for the outbound guys so we can track their conversion rates, their cohorts, their progress in the funnel. Campaign influence, we're just getting started. So we want to do the W-shaped analysis and look at multi-touch in different ways and move our reporting to more of an ROI and CAC basis. What we don't think about very much is costs. So we know our costs overall as a marketing organization and how we spread it out across the budget. But other than, I would say, our paid advertising channel, which is very much down to here's how much an inquiry costs, here's how much opportunity costs, we don't have much notion around the cost of webinars or trade shows or events as how they relate to the funnel. So we're going to be investing quite heavily in that. Lead scoring, our lead scoring is like super basic, rudimentary. I don't know if I believe all the hype of predictive lead scoring, but I'm sure there's some middle ground between some machine learning technology and what we have today that can help us be more efficient and help SDRs prioritize leads, especially when there's 5,000 of them coming in a given month. And then this is something that's kind of a common trend, but an account-focused strategy. So start thinking about how do we move those leads into contacts? How do we start measuring influence from an account standpoint? And really being aware of the fact that in most cases, people are buying us in groups, not just individuals. So we have to kind of market to them as groups and also track the results as groups. So yeah, we've got a lot of big challenges ahead. I think we're just getting started.